What up, everybody? Oh, let me turn this down. Hang on. Let's turn this down. See what happens when I don't do shows for a couple weeks? We get all crazy and have problems. So let's expect some problems tonight because I haven't done a show in 2 weeks. I've been messing with stuff on my computer. Who knows how this is going to go? So we're just going to go through this. But it's good to be back, guys. It's good to be back sharing the show. On the show. So share the show so we can all get into this together. We're going to talk about a few things. There's going to be some stuff that we're going to talk about that I'll warn you, probably is not going to be the most popular for all of the Trump fans out there, but you got to hear me out on this, though. Like, I understand what everybody is saying, but we also need to understand what the actions are and kind of go over a couple things. There's nothing wrong with it saying that's not the right direction to do something. We should do this instead to get to the same result. And that's where you got to hear me out here. So share this out. It's like the viewership is climbing. It's all there. It's growing. What up, Chris? I see you on Rumble there. What up, man? Good to see you. We're gonna go through some of the stuff. We're gonna. I don't have a whole lot of topics, to be honest. It's slow when Congress isn't spending all of our money. The news isn't going over a whole lot, and Donald Trump is doing some things. Like, that's what I want to talk about mostly is Donald Trump and federalizing the police in DC and taking that over. There's concerns there, but I understand why he's doing it. And so we're going to talk a little bit about it. And then what else? What was that other topic? Hang on. Let me go look at my notes. Hang on. Oh, something I learned last night scrolling the internet. Minus 100 for missing last week. You mean the last 2 weeks? Math is hard, free. I know you're with the government at all, but man, math is hard. But when it comes to Washington State, we got to talk about their gas tax and what they've done and how they changed things. Their gas tax is automatically going to increment 2% every year in July. And then if inflation goes up, minus 100 for missing the week before. Yeah, something like that. Then if inflation kicks in, they're going to add a differential that increases it even more without Washington State citizens' approval or voting on it or anything. It's just going to increase magically. Let's talk a little bit about that here in a little bit. And then what was my main topic? What did I put on here? Hang on, guys. Hang on. That's where I'm all over the place today. Oh, the redistricting. We got to talk about redistricting in Texas. And everybody says, oh, it's okay because the right is doing it. You realize how bad that is? Like, it is awful that you are justifying that our government will do things in the right way just because your team holds the majority. We have to be realistic here, guys. We got to be realistic, real, and true to the facts. The facts are both parties gerrymander. Both parties want to draw districting lines to where they get the most seats. That's just reality. They both do it. So it's not that it's okay because my team's doing it. It's also it's a problem. It's a major problem. And we need to go over that a little bit because Florida is about to do the same thing. Utah's already a disaster because we did it a few years ago and it was taken to court and was found, there was some sketchy stuff done. You have Wisconsin with the Supreme Court going more liberal than right because Republicans don't know how to show up to vote. And you're going to start seeing this redistricting and gerrymandering that is all over the media being touted that my team's good. This is how the government creates division, guys. This is how the government distracts you. This is how the government and the system keeps you under control, to where you're not really going against the enemy. You are just picking on exactly the group that the government is telling you is the boogeyman. You remember me telling you about the boogeyman? He was in Iran, and why we had to go and drop bombs on Iran. The governments all create boogeymen to push a narrative, and that's what they do. I don't understand why there is so many people that can't just process why Republicans do just as shady stuff as the Democrats do. They do shady stuff. We need to admit that. We will never fix this country if we can't talk about it. Thanks, Rose. Enjoy. Hey, Karen, I think California is going to do it. What do you mean going to do it? Gerrymandering, like redrawing districts? A lot of them will do. And we might as well, while we're talking about it, talk about Trump calling for a new census over the last couple weeks, which I actually am full support of, because I'm the libertarian that wants to deport illegals. I don't think that they need to be here. And so in my mind, it kind of justifies redrawing the districts. I get it, Karen. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll go over that. But this all ties into the census, and this is where elections can really be swayed and changed. Now, am I happier that Republicans get elected in federal government over Democrats? Yes, because generally it's not as bad, but it's still the same team. They do the same shit. They don't care about you. They don't care about your neighbor. They only serve their special interests and how they're going to keep getting their money or their fame or their fancy lifestyles. That's all they service. And then we're going to spend a little bit, and this is just random. Utah has an election that we just did yesterday. Sorry, I just got a text. We had an election yesterday across our state in many different places. My city specifically had an election for city council for multiple seats. And then in 2026, we also have my mayor running for re-election. But 2025, we have some council seats that are up and need to be filled. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. We need to talk about the two candidates that I spoke with on the phone for about an hour each, to understand what they're trying to do, what their goals are, and try to make my decision on who I vote for. But I want to bring up a couple topics that came up with one of the candidates. So we have enough time. We will get to that. But I don't intend this to be a full show. I don't intend this to be over an hour. We're going to kind of go through it. We'll talk with you guys, get your guys' feedback in the comments, and we'll get going. So let's get into this. First topic. Let's jump into... Let's do the DC cleanup. Let's talk about Trump for a minute, and let's talk about DC. Hey, what up, Drew? I see you. I have problems when we federalize and regulate on, and this is going to be a take probably you guys haven't heard before. I have issues when we federalize police departments within our borders. But I don't have much of an issue if we federalize a police force in Washington, D.C., because Washington, D.C. is unlike any other city in this nation. Washington, D.C. is federal land, and there is a reason why it's called District of Columbia. It is not your traditional city. So for them to federalize there, sure, that's federal land. You can do it. I don't care. Now, do I want things cleaned up like Trump is talking about? We're going to actually show a couple videos. We'll go over that. So be it. He can clean it up. Honestly, every city should. My city should. Salt Lake City is a shithole if I go downtown. It's not something I'm proud of. And we want to bring the Olympics here. We just had the Olympics in 2002. And another topic that we're going to talk about throughout this and how government works when they do these cleanups is they ship off the homeless just to another state. They ship off the homeless. They bus them off over to somewhere else. Salt Lake City did it during the Olympics. We sent them to LA and Las Vegas. It was a huge deal back then. And the internet was a kind of a thing in 2002. It existed. Not everybody had it today. We didn't use it for our media. Like hell, we had Angel Flyer websites. We were listening to music we got from Napster, and we were complaining about Metallica going after Napster. Like that's everything that went on during that era. Like the internet was a whole different world then. But what the governments do, for example, you guys even heard me say it many months ago about I didn't like how Abbott and DeSantis was busing illegals up to New York and to these sanctuary cities, because all you're doing is spreading around these illegals throughout our country instead of them having to travel on foot and get captured either by a state or somebody else in between. We are now distributing them throughout the country, which is, in my opinion, not a good idea either. It's funny. Don't get me wrong. I laughed, especially when they were complaining about it. I thought it was hilarious. And it's no different than us flying them around the country. Like James O'Keefe pointed out, and many others. Like I want to say Savannah Hernandez caught it. Multiple people have pictures of us flying illegals around this country, and you see them with this little packet that they're holding onto, and that's like all they have. And the packet has information on where they're going. Our government is known for just moving people around this country when we don't like where they're at. They do that. Let me show you guys real quick. Let me get into this for showing you guys what Utah did for our 2002 Olympics. So this article is from Las Vegas Sun. And you can see Utah officials deny homeless sent to Las Vegas. Utah officials denied Wednesday charges by Las Vegas Mayor Oscar Goodman that 1,000 homeless persons in Salt Lake City were being intentionally bused to Las Vegas to get them out of town before the 2002 Winter Olympics. This was a huge deal. And of course, like most of you probably know, I live in the Salt Lake City area. And yeah, all of a sudden, downtown was clean when we had the Olympics. Nothing. There was no homeless people. None. Now, I'm glad because we didn't have the room. The amount of people that came for the Olympics, you couldn't get around downtown very well. So it cleaned up the streets. It looked better. But then it also gave us a little bit more room to pack in the people that are going to be spending the money. Remember on South Park when they bust all the homeless to Cali? Well, we did it. We sent the homeless to Las Vegas, Utah, sent the homeless to Las Vegas and LA. We did it. And guess what? Now we're going to have LA shipping all of their homeless people because they have the World Cup and what? Is it the Summer Olympics or is it just the World Cup? Hang on. Yeah, so Summer Olympics 2028 is in LA. And then so World Cup is coming in 2026. So next year, I guarantee it, Gavin Newsom is going to be busing the homeless people out of LA for the World Cup and sending them up here to Salt Lake City. I guarantee it's going to happen. That's what these governments do. They don't really fix problems. So the reason why most of you hear us on these shows say, stop asking the government to fix shit. They don't fix anything. You think that they do, but they really don't fix anything. They just move things around. And that's where right now, even the other, like Washington, D.C. right now, Trump pledged to move homeless people from Washington. What we know and don't know about his plans. Yeah, we don't really know his plans. Trump hasn't really shared his plans. He just says he wants to clean up Washington, D.C. and get this all out of here. Yeah, thanks, Free. I'm in the wrong shape for Olympics. So we'll just start with that. But governments don't fix things, guys. We really have to stop looking to government to solve our issues. We got to really start driving home how we're going to fix them ourselves, or start electing the right people locally to be able to fix these issues. The federal government Like local is government and federal is government, right? But local, they have more motivation, they have more desire to listen to you and to clean up their communities. They want to do the right thing. We have most of Congress on a 30-day vacation to spend time with their constituents, which they're not doing. And they still get paid $174,000 a year. When do you get 30 days off and you get paid an easy six figures like that? And by the way, the threshold for $174,000 a year means magically you're just a millionaire and you're going to be mega millions. You can own 4 homes and travel the country for a living, and you're okay because you make $174,000 a year. But when it comes to our government, they don't fix things. Like, this stuff is not fixed. There's no tax on tips. You guys have already heard me harp on this enough. It's not forever. It's temporary because it expires before Trump leaves office. It actually will expire with Trump still in office. Like, that's stupid. Terry, maybe we should have an Olympics. Casey would love a meme competition. Now I'm analyzing. There you go. I'm down with that. I'm down with doing memes. That's why we need to bring memes back to Are You Smarter Than a Politician free. Memes need to make a comeback. J-Rib, I'm absolutely convinced no voting will work. Yes, local, they talk good, live amongst us, but their end goal is to go higher. They'll continue to toe the same crap line. I understand it. I think that's mostly where you live on where that comes from. And yeah, I get why you would feel that way. Here locally, like I just said, my city council has a couple seats to fill. So we had an election yesterday. It didn't go the way I wanted it to go. But I understand what you're saying. Sometimes you got to get out of the community that you're in and go to another one to where you have a little bit of say. Because that's sometimes the solution to things is you have to bail on where you're at. But this is also why I've said it before. Like I'm moving more and more into anarchist level libertarian of saying just burn it all down. Like that's the only solution to this is burn it all down. We'll start over. Because I don't know how else we do it. We could vote. I encourage everybody to still vote. I still vote, even though I don't have a whole lot of confidence in it. I still do my part because I do honestly feel, and I've been told it my whole life, if you don't vote, you get to shut the fuck up. You don't get to complain if you didn't vote at all. But back to the topic here. So like DC getting cleaned up. I agree with it. I think they should, but I want them to go about it the right way. I don't want them just to be busing out of DC. So like, what? We're just going to take all homeless people out of DC and ship them over to Baltimore? Like, that's not really a solution there. But I'm tired of just the move talk. We need to get rid of all of it and start over. This government will never change. I agree. But if you don't have that much faith in voting or anything, then there's really no reason to get involved at all, right? That's what the government wants. You have to find ways that you can make an impact. Sometimes it's move. Sometimes it's, and I'm not saying leave your state. Go to another community, go to another city to where it's more rural and you have more say in what's going on. Those are the type of strategic things. Or look at your boundaries and look and see where places fit that work for you. That's sometimes how you have to win is you have to get on a team of people that want to join you. It's really hard if you're in a community that is opposite-minded of you. Very difficult to build a community around that. But it's possible still. You still can do it. But it's challenging. That is for sure. But when it comes down to our government, like the part that I also wanted to share with you guys, let me show this. Let me pull this up here. So this one is the tab I wanted to show first. So let's look at the news articles around Donald Trump and what he's doing. Is crime in Washington really out of control as Trump claims? BBC. PBS fact-checking Trump's claims about homicides in DC. Let's click on this one. Let's see what they say. Fact-checking Trump's claims, at August 11th, announcing federal government take over the district's Metropolitan Police Department and deployment of National Guard troops to the nation's capital. Trump displayed several charts comparing DC's homicide rate within cities around the world. The murder rate in Washington today is higher than Bogota, Colombia, Mexico City. Okay. Some of the places that you hear about being the worst places on earth, Trump said. We have DC, go away. We have DC 41 per 100,000. Number one, can't find anywhere in the world. Trump said, holding up a chart comparing homicide rates across capital cities. Other cities are pretty bad, but not as bad as that. Sure. But let's get into this. Like, there's some news out here. The Atlantic giving a shout out to Trump. Trump is right. DC has a serious crime problem, but he's wrong about how to fix it. And so Trump yesterday announced, we already went over that. Is crime in DC, as Trump put it last week, totally out of control? Critics were quick to dismiss his claims as fear-mongering. You recognize fear-mongering is only welcomed when it's on the team that is promoting it. But I also recognize some of the stats that Trump is saying. I do see them as legitimate. So let's show you. So even Fox, local Fox, is starting to call out, hey, yeah, it was high before, but look at this. 187 homicides, 274 in 2023, 2022, 203, 226 in 2021. But if you go back to the era that Trump was president, it was a lot lower. That's what a lot of people are failing to recognize. This is a different chart for carjackings. We were to look at carjackings in Washington, D.C. When Trump was president, it was under, around 150 regularly. And ever since Joe Biden took over, well, a little bit before Biden took over, it skyrocketed. We were at 2024, so January 2024 right there, 951 in January. And it's heading down, but still pretty high if you look at these numbers. Like, I don't care what mainstream media wants to tell you, there's a problem here. And when Donald Trump was last in office, numbers were a lot lower. So he has some reason to be bringing this up and saying, hey, we need to do something about the crime and the community, because they're clearly not. This is where you have to really start looking at data and being like, who is telling the truth? Like, look at these news articles. Trump's Washington, D.C. crime crackdown exposes a gap between perception and reality, says CNBC. Trump's Washington, D.C. National Guard plan ignores FBI crime data. But I just was showing you guys, like local Fox is showing the stats are up. We're showing Atlantic actually is showing the stats are up. Not Atlantic. This is Jeff Analytics Substack. Was any metrics in reporting changed between 45 and 46? Well, yeah, Chris, we always have the metrics in reporting. Those don't generally change. The parts that we need to remember about these numbers, everything is, what up, OB? I see you. The thing we have to remember about stats and numbers, statistics that we teach in college, we teach you how to manipulate numbers to be able to present the story you want, not necessarily the real factual data. It teaches you about standard deviation, what is technically an outlier, and all of those things, so you can narrow down the numbers and you can justify and spin the numbers in such a way for a story that you want. That's one of the problems we have with data and the internet today. Everybody expects the numbers just to stand out and make perfect sense, but you can't do that unless you have the raw data. You can figure out what they remove from it and how they put it together and present the data. I know all about this because when I was doing analytics and putting together stuff, in my days working at a major credit card company and doing some analytics on credit card usage and stuff like that, and how customers use their cards, etc. I had to put all of that data together and present it. And yeah, people do that, and especially in business and in politics, it's even worse. They are able to create charts and manipulate them to make you think that the story is accurate. But little do you know, they removed 25-30% of the story because they justified it with other outlying factors that they can say this doesn't apply. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Trump and Biden presented the data differently. Metrics might have been wrong. I don't know. The difference was, I'm showing you the charts right here. This is outside of your typical mainstream media. This is a guy just putting together the data on his Substack, and he just outlines the whole stuff, and it looks logical to me. Look at this, like Washington D.C. murders over a rolling 12 months, down compared to where it's been the last 4 years. Like, and who's been president? Joe Biden. So, and he sources all of his data right here. If we want to go get it, we can go and access it and be able to put together this data. This is what's important. Instead of looking at what people tell you, you got to be able to go and dive into this and be able to look at the data and see if it's accurate. By what I've seen, this guy's legit. His numbers look pretty solid. I don't disagree with them too much. I would trust them a lot more than this freaking ugly chart. Like, hell, what are we doing? Charts from late 90s, early 2000s? Don't do charts like that anymore. Come on. Like, look at this chart. This looks so much better. This is freaking ugly. But anyways, so overall, I usually am against federalizing things in cities and doing that because it's not the place. But to recap, Washington, D.C. is federal land. They can federalize that. It's not that Trump is being a dictator as a left is trying to portray it as. He's trying to clean up the city, and he has within the rights to do so. Now, if he does that in another city, I would have a lot more concerns with it. I don't care what the city is, because none of those are all local. That should remain under control of their local communities. We don't need to be bringing in federal agents, not at all. That Washington D.C. is where it needs to stay. But yeah, that's some of the stuff that I am seeing with the DC cleanup that nobody else is talking about. Everybody wants to say how bad it is, and they go out and start protesting in the streets that Trump is evil. No, Trump can do this in DC, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I just don't want to see it in any other city. It needs to stay there, mainly because it's Washington D.C. It's not technically your traditional city. It is federal land. And by the way, that's why they also ran all J6ers, most J6ers, I should say, through court, through DC, the DC gulag, because they run on their own rules there. LA? No, it can't happen in LA. I don't want to see federalizing police forces in LA. And it didn't happen. They sent National Guard troops down there, but they weren't doing what they're doing in DC. But yeah, overall, clean up DC. We should be cleaning up our communities. We should be cleaning up everything in our states. We should be making things presentable. We don't want to be walking around and seeing homeless everywhere, seeing people pooping on the streets and doing drugs in the streets. That's not what America is about. Yeah, it's about land of the free and to have freedom. But we don't want our communities looking that way. We need to clean it up somehow. And Donald Trump's cleaning up his area. We got to look at our leadership in local communities to clean up ours. Here in Utah, we have a horrible problem with it downtown. It is awful. I really feel like I'm in Seattle or Portland every time I go downtown because they're everywhere. And they're setting up encampments everywhere. Like one of the best parks to go to downtown, to where you can see all of the nice tall buildings of downtown. You can see the mountains. You got big trees because it's been around forever. You don't even want to go to that park because it's got all the homeless people setting up their encampments there. It's ruining it. But guess who also has to pay for that park and the maintenance for that park? Us, the citizens. And it's just more of a cost. So we should be cleaning it up. Pioneer Park, yeah. Pioneer Park is one of them. Absolutely. It's awful. Minus 100, of course. Of course, Scientific enters the chat. But we should be cleaning up things. Oregon Native, I understand. Good. Yeah, we should encourage it, but we also don't need to be asking the federal government to do it, is what I'm telling you guys. Like, the federal government should not be coming into our cities and cleaning them up. We should be demanding our communities to do it and our leadership to do it. Because it's all within our control. But we also know corrupt government is hard to change. And the only way we can change those things is unite with others and get engaged locally. Like, get to know your city council. I know many people on my city council that are not my rep. They don't represent me in my district or precinct. But I have their phone numbers. I text them. Part of that is because of my prior city councilwoman I wasn't too fond of, wasn't very engaging, didn't really interact very much. I would try to get feedback on how things are going. I would get no response. Hopefully that changes with this election. Not too confident in it because the person that got elected, which we'll hopefully touch on in a little bit. I didn't expect to spend 30 minutes on this topic already, but I did. So we might have a longer show today. I was thinking this might be a quick 30 minutes. But let's jump into the next topic here. Transitioning to the redistricting. So Texas, let me pull up the map here. Texas redistricting. So with the redistricting, the House passed it. It's all done with the Senate. Excuse me, I have that backwards. And so we have the Senate that passed it. Now the House needs to get their ass back into Texas, and they need to vote on it. People are saying, is this gerrymandering because it's drawing new lines and it's going to cause all these problems? The Democrats are yelling, the Republicans are doing this. The Republicans are saying, no, we're not doing it. This is your typical dog and pony show on what your government puts on for you. Your government does this to distract you and get you confused and have you turn into the natural tribal, I don't know, instinct that you have, that you grab onto your team and be like, we don't do that. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Republicans gerrymander just as much as the Democrats do. Anybody that says that, you are completely blind and ignorant, and you're the reason why our country is a shithole. Because you keep believing the government and trusting them. Stop it. We can't be trusting the government to do things like this. And this is where I struggle a little bit. The redistricting does need to happen. We got to revisit that every once in a while to make sure if there's new cities and new communities that form in large masses, that they can have proper representation in government. It's part of our process. We got to do it, but we also don't trust the government to do it right. And Scientific says the Jerry sounds like a real D-bag. I agree. It is. But when it comes down to the redistricting, I'm sick of people trying to act like the Republicans don't do it. Like there was already the Supreme Court in Wisconsin was a big deal because the Republicans did it in Wisconsin before, and they didn't want a liberal have the Supreme Court go more liberal, and then have the gerrymandering case go up to the Supreme Court and it get decided that it was gerrymandered and they got to redraw the district lines. This is how all of the government plays the game. And then you guys keep trying to live in denial and trying to say my team is not doing it. When are we going to stop saying that? And when are we going to start actually holding everybody that we elect, regardless of party, accountable? And you also have the talks in Florida with gerrymandering too going on right now. I just noticed when I was searching it earlier today. I don't know what's going on in Florida. I don't know the details around it. Maybe they're talking about doing the same thing. What aboutism, Casey? Yeah. So just realize the red and the blue team, both of those teams are why we're in this situation. We have to stop justifying that the red team's lesser of two evils, so we have to vote for them. We have to really start changing our ways and getting people to represent us in office. That's one of the things that was refreshing about this primary that I voted in my city council. There was no party mentioned because we don't do that in our primary for a city council. We don't talk about party affiliation. We have a name on a ballot. That's all it is. It doesn't mention party. It doesn't give an R or a D next to their name. It's just their name. And this is probably why very few people even show up to vote in primaries, because they don't know what to do. There's no R indicator or no D indicator on the ballot to know what to do. And now Americans have to do some work and know who they want. The amount of Texas plates we are seeing in Oregon is crazy. Amy, I said the same thing to my wife here in Utah after we just drove to Florida and back, and we drove through Texas both ways. I feel like I see a ridiculous amount of Texas plates in Utah that I have never seen this quantity until recently. Maybe there's something to it. Here in Utah, we keep saying Utah is one of the fastest, like locals here in Utah and the local news keep saying Utah is one of the fastest growing states in the country. Everybody says it's Californians. I don't necessarily believe that. It is part Californians, but I think Californians are more looking for going to Washington and Oregon than necessarily California, like staying in California. Some may come to Utah, especially the outdoorsy people. Utah is a great place for that. Salt Lake City area specifically. But I'm seeing a lot of Texas plates also. Texas, in my opinion, is probably going to be purple before we know it. Utah is probably going to be not too far behind, because Salt Lake City is going blue and blue every election. More blue every election. And they're going to be controlling just like we have in Oregon and Washington, to where you have Portland running all of Oregon, Seattle running all of Washington. You're seeing that in a lot of states. But Utah, I think, is going to be a little bit harder to swing and make that shift. It'll take a little bit longer, but it's on its way. It is on its way, unfortunately. But on the redistricting, guys, we have to just start holding people accountable that are not representing you. Yes, the redistricting needs to be done. We need to figure out how we do it properly. But stop saying that your team doesn't do it. Your team does do it. We have to admit that. The red and blue teams are evil. They are not serving you. They are serving you their special interests and their fancy lifestyle that they want to live. Right? Every single one of them. They have a very fancy lifestyle that we don't get. We get to pay taxes. We get to deal with all of the shit and homeless people in our country, illegals in our country, and federal government doesn't want to do shit about it. Congress could have done something about the border well before Donald Trump took office, and they didn't. Congress did nothing to fix that. And remember that. Everybody blames Joe Biden, but Congress could have done something, but they did not. And now that you have Congress that is red, all red across the board, House and Senate, how are we making progress? We're not. We passed the one big beautiful bill and we removed everything great about the House bill. We removed all of the good stuff from the House bill and put shit in the Senate bill. I already did videos on it. Go back and look at it. I'm sure in one of the titles it says no tax on tips, or in the description you'll find it that way, because that's one of the big things. Next is Donald Trump in the one big beautiful bill. We put the federal tax credit for solar panels back in. So I thought we didn't support the green new scam. Well, we do, because it was put in the bill. It was put back. It was removed from the House bill, but the Senate put it back. This is where you got to start looking at things realistically, guys. Like, just because it's your party and just because Donald Trump's president Doesn't mean, and you voted for Donald Trump, doesn't mean everything's happy and hunky dory now. I shared an article earlier last week, I think, that we went under 1 million gun sales in a month. We haven't done that since Donald Trump was president the first time. Guys, just because Donald Trump is president and that's who you voted for doesn't mean you need to be prepared. You need to be preparing no matter who is going to be president. It doesn't matter if it's the person you voted for or not. You still need to be preparing. You need to have guns and ammo. That's the reason why the Second Amendment exists, is for a tyrannical government. Not that your guy is going to do it, but the guy after might. Got to be ready. So don't let your foot off the gas pedal when preparing against a tyrannical government. They did it to us during COVID. They locked us all down, took away our rights, and told you to stay home. And a lot of people didn't bat an eye at it. And they will try it again. I know I'm all over the place, guys, but there's a lot of stuff going on. Like my work has been hectic, and so I'm not paying attention to everything as closely as I should, as I'm trying. But also, it's a weird world right now. Things are kind of scattered and not really moving in a unified direction. And I think this is the chaos that the government wants to create before something big happens. Not calling for it, not saying it will, but you just get that weird feeling that why is everything so chaotic and random and weird? Like none of it is making sense. Is it because something crazy is about to happen that we're not expecting? I don't know. I think there's something there. I don't know what yet, but keep your head on a swivel. We got to be watching out for each other and taking care of Americans. I don't care if an American is a liberal or not. I'm still going to fight for their rights and support them, even though they probably won't for me. But it is our responsibility as Americans to support each other. And I will make sure that every single one of you keeps your First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, all of them. No, we could start a fun debate and be like, do we repeal the 19th Amendment? Why not? Let's talk about it. That's how people really get fired up. It started off even last night. That was fun on it. Are you smarter than a politician when that came up? 19th Amendment is hilarious to talk about. Now, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's safe, but it's funny on how that really riles people up. Buying a politician gains you about 1,500% return on your investment. All right, I can see that. But politicians are evil. Don't get involved with them. Try to just get local representatives that really want to represent the people and take care of their communities. That's what you want, not the shitty politicians that will do those things. Let's talk a little bit about my city and the election yesterday and the couple candidates. So one of the candidates, his name is Matt Basham. And I had a long conversation with him on Saturday. The other candidate is Heather Garcia. Heather Garcia is who I voted for. She had a lot of good answers, and it's not necessarily good answers that she gave me that appealed to me. It's that she had desires to make sure that we don't have overreaching government. We allow people to have personal property rights and they do what they want on their own land. She also let me talk. Like that's the other thing. Like the other guy, Matt Basham, like he was a nice guy, but he really just wouldn't let me talk. I could barely ask a question and he just kept going and going and going. And when I threw out one of the things that I'm upset about that my city did, my city changed the laws for living in an RV on your lot, and how you store RVs, how many extra vehicles you can have. We changed all kinds of new laws that go in effect in October this year, which I'm very disappointed in my mayor and city council in supporting. They put a whole bunch of checks and balances in place for all of these RVs and stuff like that, which most of you know I love RVing. That's why we traveled to Florida, is in our motorhome. But if I wanted to put in a concrete pad to extend my driveway to park my RV in, like I did a few years ago, If I wanted to put that in, I now have to have an inspection. I have to have all of these things. Like, no, I just want concrete on the ground to park my RV on it. Now I have more checks. If I wanted to do gravel, that is frowned upon and the city will not like me. And they potentially can fine me if I use gravel because it's not as stable as concrete. Yeah, no shit. But Americans can't afford concrete like we used to. Concrete is absolutely asinine in cost, and it is not going down. Concrete is only going up in cost, just like our property taxes. Like, we can't be going around and expecting people to only put concrete in if they want to store an RV on their lot. That's really insane. The other thing that's really stupid about it, with this whole thing, is where I live is up against the mountains, hillside. A lot of people have acreage and they have more land. They don't want to put something as like solid and fixed like concrete is, because one day they may want to dig a trench and run a power line or whatever in their ground from one side to the other and not have to deal with concrete. It's really difficult to deal with concrete if you got to run lines in your ground. And no, we didn't take any of that into consideration. None of it. We took the whiners and complainers that live in condos right around City Hall, all of them complaining, or all of the people that live in condos that may have an RV sitting on the side of the road because they don't really have a place to park an RV. Now it's frowned upon to put them out on the street on the side of the road when that's all they could afford. There's nothing wrong with that. Leave those people alone. They weren't hurting anything. But no, our city decided it's a good fucking idea to start restricting on that. And I brought that up to both of the people running for city council in my city. And the person I voted for was like, yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. And I saw everything going on with it. I would not vote for that if that came up if I'm elected. And that was a huge thing for me, huge deal, because that tells me that we will leave people alone in our communities and let them run their lives and their property how they want. Like, I have a neighbor just outside my circle that doesn't do a very good job at taking care of his lawn. It was shit for the last 4 years I've lived here. But it's his lawn. It's his lawn. I'm not going to, I'm going to complain about it to myself, but it's his property. He can do what he wants with it. Am I happy that every time I drive out, I have to see it? No, but it's his property. He can do how he wants. That's how we need to be treating things. That's why I don't like HOAs. I could not live in an HOA because I would spend too much time at the HOA yelling and screaming at them on how much of pieces of shit they are in this country. But that's where my local communities and my local community, I want to be representing the people and giving people the freedom to live their lives on their property and leave us alone. The government can leave us alone. This other guy, the part that I had a problem with his answer, again, he's a nice guy. Like, I don't have bad things to say. It's just, I don't feel like he's going to represent me. And so he didn't get my vote, but he won the primary by the looks, unless some miracle happens. There was a couple precincts that weren't counted when I checked it earlier today around lunchtime. But he had a pretty dominant lead, so he won the primary, and we'll find out how that goes into the general election in a few months. But his answer was very half-assed. He also, when he was explaining it, talking about it, he was talking about, oh, well, I can understand why we'd want to restrict how many vehicles people can have on their lots. If everybody just has 75 cars and they only have this small lot, that's not really a thing. And I'm like, that's not really your place to regulate. If they want to clear out all the grass on their lot and make it all gravel and park cars everywhere, that's their right. It's their lot. Let them do it. Why do we have to force them to do something different? And he was talking about that part. That is the only part he got accurate, like correct in describing what was voted upon in this decision. Everything else he got completely wrong. He would have been better off as a politician to be able to, in telling me You know what? I don't know that very well. But no, he tried to put it off that he knew what he was talking about and knew what I was referring to and tried to talk to it to try to tell me what he thinks I want to hear. And no, he did everything wrong. This is why I encourage all of you to get in contact and communicate with your representatives, even if they're federal. The federal people don't interact too much. Like Mike Lee follows me on X. I've interacted with him a handful of times, excuse me. But I don't get a whole lot from the federal level. My community, my local community, school board, city council, I can text them all the time and get interaction and actually have a conversation with them. So what I'm getting to, guys, is you need to be doing the same. You don't like the way things are going on in your area, like J-Riv. J-Riv, do you talk to your city council? Do you go to those meetings and tell them you don't like what's going on? Those are how you make the changes. We got to be doing that. I know it might not always go your way. Like, hell, just a few months ago, they put this new law in place around RVs and stuff and like that. Well, they voted on it and passed it. It goes in effect in October. They just passed it in May. And I'm not happy about it. I vocalized it. But the part that I wish I would have known is I didn't actually know that vote was happening the night it was, or else I would have been there at City Hall. And so it sucks. But that's one downside also that I'm going to have to figure out how I handle it. My city council meetings are on Wednesday nights. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to do both. We'll figure it out, though. We'll figure it out. I'm not going to drive a golf cart 28 miles. Hey, Russ, that sounds like a good time. Let's soup up a golf cart, put a bigger motor in it, electric motor, and let's 28 miles so we can get there real fast. That won't be bad. I drove my golf cart 10 miles round trip to get pizza because I couldn't find my keys. Yeah, you want to know what happens in my city? People will ride their horse through the drive-thru of Wendy's down the street. In my neighborhood, if people can't find their keys, they'll go take their horse. That's what they do. It's really cool out here. Unfortunately, we probably won't have that for much longer with how rate our city is growing. But yeah, we don't have golf carts. We have horses. Bet you had it delivered next time. I bet he did, Kilburn. Bet he did. Terry says, I would only have to go 8 miles, but that won't happen. I know how to ask for delivery. There you go. Delivery is expensive, guys. It's expensive. DoorDash and all of their... It's not just the fees. If you look at the food you order, the price goes up. And you can go and see that in DoorDash. You can order pickup or delivery. And if you do pickup, you'll see the price go down. If you do delivery, you'll see the price bump up a little bit on each item. It's expensive to have it delivered. It's like you don't even know me. Well, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about. I know it wasn't super exciting. I'm sorry I'm not super exciting to listen to right now. I got a lot going on. I wanted to make it a point to do a show this week. It's bad to miss 2 weeks in a row like I did, let alone 3. So wanted to make sure to come on and do a show, talk about what we're doing. Hopefully Congress can get back into effect. I don't know. Maybe Congress doesn't come back because they're not spending our money right now. That's kind of nice. But it also sucks because we really need to start codifying some of those executive orders that I want to see in place. Glad you are back, -100. Thanks, Free. Love you too. But guys, we're going to be back at it next week. I'll be honest. Next Wednesday is a big day at work. I may or may not have a show on Wednesday. Next week specifically. Just depending on how I feel on Wednesday. It's a big day. I could be pretty exhausted and not want to deal with shit. But I also could just be really pissed off, and we're just going to go and wing it and see how it goes. We'll have a beer and we'll talk. But thanks for tuning in. We got almost 300 of you tuning in. This is great. I appreciate it. I wasn't even expecting 10. That's what I was telling Free when I was on the phone with him a little bit ago. Yeah, the 10 people watching, because the algorithm on X right now is awful. It sucks. But it's doing all right, I guess. Looking at these numbers, we got 287 from X, 4 on Facebook, 1 on YouTube. Chris must have dropped off from Rumble, but I am tired, man. I am tired. It's a lot of work stuff, dude. A lot of work stuff, but things will get back to normal. We'll get there. Just a lot of tough decisions and actions that need to be done that I don't want to do. But next Wednesday is the last day of it. And so hopefully it all gets behind us, man. But I appreciate you. Anyways, guys, be on the lookout next week. I appreciate y'all. And